Hey everybody, it's Curtis. I'm back in the gym and I'm bringing you guys another review. This time, a unique piece, the HAVAK Adjustable Triad. All right, so I can tell you right now that this is a very cool piece of kit and I want to tell you all about it. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to kind of describe it to you. We're going to talk about the quality of construction. Afterwards, I'm going to give you guys some notes, some potential improvements that I think could be made to the product. And then we'll talk about my training notes as well as the cost, as well as any final opinions I might have saved till the end. So stick around till the end. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe this video for more content coming every single week. These are the HAVAK Adjustable Triads. They're a unique take on hand weight movements. The reason that they're a unique take is because it provides resistance in two different ways. One, you can change out the plates, or you can modify the position at which you are holding the actual hand weight. So holding it out versus in. And we'll get a little bit more into that in just a minute. Each hand weight comes with 3 different grip sizes. You have the 1.5 inch traditional grip, the 2 1/4 inch, which is the fat grip, and then of course the big 3 inch over here, which is your Strongman grip. Just as a quick note for those of you that are very interested in kettlebells, the kettlebell handle diameters are slightly different sizes. These units are adjustable hand weights. As such, they are adjustable all the way down to about 5 pounds, and that is just the black handle frame without any screws or any change plates, all the way up to 45 pounds per base unit. What I mean by that is basically these are sold as individual hand weights. So if you wanted a pair, you would have to purchase 2. If you buy one kit, 5 to 45 pound adjustability. However, you can purchase extra weights and you can go all the way up to about 85 pounds if you're just using the HAVAK weights. When you're making those jumps from 5 to 45 pounds, you can make them as small as 2.5 pounds if you're loading them off center. If you are loading them so that they're the same on both sides, you can make 5-pound jumps. Additionally, if you're interested, they do offer these very much smaller, and these would give you 2.5 jumps or about 1 1/4 jumps if you were to purchase a set of these, depending on how you load. The adjustability is made possible by these 6 bolts. There are 3 on each side, 2 that go into each side of the handle. When you are making those weight jumps, you'll be using these 6 screws, and when you are changing out your plates, there are 4 different plates that are offered. Now, this is a bonus plate, like I mentioned earlier. This is a 1 1/4. This is not available in the standard loadout, but you can find it on the HAVAK website. But what you get standard is a pair of 2.5s, a pair of 5s, a pair of 10s, which I currently have installed, and then of course the hand weight itself weighs about 10 pounds with the 6 screws installed. When you go to change out the weights, the way that it works is you have one that is a complete hole. That's the one that goes in the top. You can select whichever handle that you want to be that. And then you have 2 that are this slotted design. So you have to completely remove one of these screws from the hand weight, slide this in, and then put the bolt back through and tighten it down. This does make it a little bit faster to change the weights out rather than having to completely remove all 6 screws to change the weights on both sides. Now that I've kind of walked you through what they are, I'd love to start talking about the quality of construction. That is one place that the Triads are really going to excel. Overall, these things are very, very well executed. Everything on them is very one-off. This isn't something that HAVAK copied from somebody else. This was definitely well thought out. Everything is purpose-built for this hand weight, and that includes the plates, the screws that hold the plates onto the handles, and then of course the handles themselves. The logos I think look really good, especially when you consider the detail, especially with that lightning bolt and these sharp 90-degree corners. Everything cut out really nicely, and that includes on the thicker pieces like this 5-pound or the 10-pound plate. The finish on them is also a nice zinc coating, and it's kind of like not overly shiny, but it's just kind of a nice, it's not hammer tone, but kind of like a nice marbly type finish. All the holes line up like they're supposed to. There has been 0 issues as far as getting things to line up. Even when I've stacked one of the weights up with all of the weights, everything lines up absolutely perfectly. The handles are super well constructed. They're finished in this black textured powder coat, which is awesome, especially when you consider that you're going to be using these in different leverages. So you're going to be putting these out at different angles. If it didn't have this powder coat, we would have some issues as far as grip is concerned, especially when you're getting sweaty throughout your workouts. Additionally, all the handles weigh 5 pounds each if you have nothing on them, no screws. If just throwing these screws back in brings the handle weight up to 10 pounds. So you have your 5 pound, your 10 pound, and then you start to throw in your plates to get your adjustability all the way up to 45 pounds. There is a 2-inch hole located all the way through the unit, which allows you to not only load these onto the end of a barbell if you wanted to use it that way, but it also allows you to stick a loading pin through. So if you wanted to try to load maybe some of your traditional plates, you could do it that way. As a quick note though, if you do that, you're gonna have some clearance issues with that 3-inch handle. That's it for construction quality though. These are very, very well made, and they're definitely made in a small assembly line by a small group of very dedicated workers with high attention to detail. Now that I've talked about the quality of construction, I'd like to go ahead and start telling you guys about a couple little minor tweaks that I think HAVAK could start to make to these handles to make them more advantageous to you. Now, first off, I know it takes about 2 minutes to do a plate swap right now. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but HAVAK is currently working on a fast change model. Not only are they working on a fast change model, but they're trying to make it so that that new hand weight works with these plates that have already been purchased. But I do think that there may be some advantages to not only creating a fast change model, but maybe some sort of kit to where these could take a normal 2-inch Olympic lifting plate. I think that a lot of people would be more apt to purchase them if they could use them with some existing weights that they already have. However, there are some big advantages to using these shaped weights, which we'll get into in my training notes. But outside of making it faster to do plate changes in between sets, as well as using your standard weights that you already own, I really can't think of too much that I would want to change with these. One, I absolutely love these things. As far as using them as a dumbbell, which is how I have been using them, they are an excellent substitution. I've actually been able to completely eliminate any use of dumbbells, and I have just been using the HAVAKs. Even though they're only adjustable up to 45 pounds, what I think is that most people would start to realize is you really don't need to go that much heavier than 45 pounds for most traditional dumbbell movements, especially when you consider the 3 different positions that you have to hold the dumbbell. The first movement is the proximal movement. And what this does is it puts the load close to your body. If you think about it, the load is close to me right now. You do that by putting your hand through the bottom of the weight in between the 2 handles that you're not using and grabbing the handle on the opposite end. When you grab it with a proximal grip, what you find is that you are actually experiencing a little bit less of that load than if you were using a different grip, such as the distal grip. Now, the distal grip is the grip that requires the most amount of skill and the most amount of time that you're gonna have to spend learning how to use these because the load is further away. So by grabbing it here, you're pushing the load about 4 to 5 inches further away, depending on how distal you get, because you can still kind of adjust infinitely in between to get the exact right load that you need. But when you hold it distal, it's going to be a greater felt load on your body. And the way that you do is you basically just grab from the outside on the handle that you wish to use. Another position, and if you're a kettlebell user, this is the one for you, is going to be the rack position. And it's just like it sounds, it's basically how you would pick a kettlebell up in the rack position. The load is technically closer to your body, so it's going to be a less felt load than if you were holding it distally. And it actually can create a somewhat interesting effect because so much of the weight is actually further back. And on that, with the rack position, there is kind of a 4th position, and that is the reversed rack. And again, what you're doing is you're flipping the center of balance from the outside to the inside. Now, when you compare these 1-to-1 between a dumbbell and a triad, what I found is that I much prefer using the triad after becoming acquainted with them. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is the ability to basically infinitely adjust the load depending on what the plate is currently loaded to. So right now I have this loaded to about 30 pounds, and I can make this really heavy by holding it distally. I can make it a little bit simpler by holding it proximal, or I could also just kind of change up the center of balance as well as bring it closer to my body by doing a back or front rack. One other nice thing, and for me this is important because I compete in Strongman, I do focus on my grip training a lot, and I have the ability to switch between a 3-inch Strongman grip, a 2¼ inch fat grip, or just a standard 1½, depending on my fatigue level. But I'm really able to quickly focus on changing grip as my training requires it. So if I'm going for the Strongman grip and my grip just isn't there anymore and I need something where I can grab a hold of it better, I can just flip over to that 2 1/4, just as simple as that. One other advantage is that these really don't roll away like a traditional dumbbell would. Now, if you're in a garage gym, you probably have a slight slope to your garage, and even if you have your platform partially leveled like mine, there's a whole other section where they tend to roll away. Additionally, you have the ability, because of the handle design, you can do a lot of two-handled movements. For example, two of my favorites have been tricep extensions, going back behind your head, or doing front raises, coming out in front of your body. You can also use them for movements like doing push-ups on them, where you can get an increased range of motion, kind of that stretch effect in the bottom of the movement. And because they're not round, they're not gonna roll away. And because they're not kettlebells, they're not gonna suddenly collapse on you. And they also work really, really well for doing weighted pull-ups if you don't have a belt. By using these, one on each foot, they stay on your foot really nicely because of their design, and you can do weighted pull-ups up to 90 pounds if you have a pair of them. Now, when we compare this to the kettlebell, that's when we start to see some slight limitations. For instance, when I'm going to go ahead and do a kettlebell swing with a triad, basically my pinkies will not fit onto the handle fully, and so my pinkies are kind of off to the side. For me, it's really not that big of a deal. I really don't do my swings with these triads anyways, but I have done them for this review and I've tested it, and I do find that they work pretty well. Now on that, triad could potentially make them a little bit wider to allow you to do more kettlebell movements like that, but you would start to basically have trade-offs between this being a hand weight and being a kettlebell. It would get a little bit too wide, and it would make a lot of the advantages it has replicating dumbbell movements kind of less advantageous. Now, for any single hand movements, as far as kettlebells are concerned, it works really, really well. They do feel a little bit different because the load is a little bit closer to the handle than it is with a traditional kettlebell, but it is still very effective, especially in those racked positions. When you compare them to center mass bells, in my opinion, the triad just affords more flexibility and basically does everything that a center mass bell wants to do and a little bit more. To do a full swap out of weight, it does take approximately 2 minutes. My best time doing a full change out was about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and my slowest, which was about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and that was me kind of not doing it as purposefully, so like doing one at a time, and it only took 2.5 minutes. So that is one disadvantage that these have, is the amount of time it takes to change weights. However, if you can properly plan out your workouts around these, what you can actually do is have a HAVAK triad movement, and then if you need to change weights, basically using your rest periods on another movement in between the two triad movements has worked really well. Now, one thing to note after you do a weight change is that sometimes these screws can come a little bit loose. There is a little rubber gasket on the inside that keeps you from getting them kind of bound up metal on metal, but sometimes they'll come just a little bit loose and you'll hear it kind of rattle a little bit. However, it's not really a big concern because of the length of the screw and the design of it having basically, you require one to be completely removed and then two others to be loosened for the hand weight to actually lose a plate. So even though it comes a little bit loose, sometimes, especially if you're dropping them, it's really not that big of a deal, and it's just as simple as tightening it back up when you're finished. So one of the last things we're going to talk about is cost. Now this is one part that kind of hurts. These hand weights sold as singles are $349 plus shipping. That means that a pair is going to cost you $689 before shipping. Just a quick note on the shipping as well. These are the most extremely well packaged items I've ever gotten. Each one of the hand weights came separated with foam, cardboard, foam, weight in between each and every single one. Additionally, all of the screws were individually wrapped in plastic, as well as the handle being super well barricaded in a very heavy duty cardboard box. So when you get these things and when you pay for them, you are definitely getting some quality in the shipping department, which is really nice because when you spend that kind of money on a set of hand weights, you want to make sure that they arrive intact. I know that $689 is a number that is not easy to digest for a lot of people, but when you consider what these could potentially replace, especially if you're limited on space, I think we start to get a little bit more value back. What you're actually paying for is you're paying for a large innovation on a high quality product made by a small team on a small line of assembly. And they're still cheaper than buying a fixed dumbbell set of 5 to 50 pounds, which is about what I think this would ideally replicate in real life. Now, HAVAK's whole mantra is not for everyone. It's on their Instagram page as well as on their website. And part of that not for everyone is going to be the price tag that comes with the product. But I do think that even though these aren't for everyone, if you're someone that does a lot of dumbbell work and you don't mind taking the time to get to know a new piece of equipment that offers a ton of versatility and a lot of different training options, that these are something that's well worth taking a look at. Now, Kabuki does make the kettlebell, which you can go pick up right now, and that was made in collaboration with HAVAK and is made after the Triad. They're a fixed weight version of this. They're slightly different, but they have a lot of the exact same training effects. However, if you're to purchase the full set of kettlebells, it's gonna run you about $1,800 before shipping. So you're looking at a large cost no matter which way that you do it. Now that we've covered the cost of the product, I want to move on to my final opinions about it. The first thing I'm going to tell you right now is that these are very unique, these are very cool, and I enjoy them very, very much. Now they are expensive, which might be part of why I think they're so cool, is because I've paid so much for them. However, I'm telling you right now that these things have a ton of versatility, and if you give them a chance, they probably are going to help accelerate your training, especially, like I've said before, if dumbbell work is something that's important to you. The ability to modify load based on leverage and not just weight alone that's loaded is something that's very interesting, very cool, and it allows you to complete a lot of work that might be at the upper end of your ability range just by simply modifying an angle. I don't regret the purchase at all. I think they fit really well into my gym. I really enjoy using them. And I also prefer these to using my DB15s, which is what I was using for all of my dumbbell work prior to getting the Triads. There's only one movement that I prefer my DB15s for, and that is a snatch, a single-handed snatch, which I never do anyways, so I don't really care. But tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think that these things are worth a look? Or do you think that they're just a little bit too fancy? Let me know in the comments down below, but that's been it for this review. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys that watch every week. And remember, when it comes to your garage gym, you should always keep it better, awesome, and of course, badass. See you next time.